In this video, you're not only going to learn how to build amazing templates with make.com, but you're also going to get an incredibly important business lesson. And the business lesson, if I had that a few years ago, I could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars because I wasted so much money on building things that nobody wanted. And I can show you how you can avoid that and save yourself from making this abysmal mistake, losing years of your life and wasting a lot of money by just doing the things that we're going to do in this video. And it includes doing, well, the general business flow, the approach, as well as the actual automation of that will save you, again, a lot of hours, many hours, not only because you don't have to do a lot of things manually, but also because you don't have to learn a lot of things before you can apply what we're going to do. So this will be an absolute game changer, believe me. So let's get started and make sure to watch the video until the end and also subscribe if you haven't done so already. So the challenges that you have selling a product or service. So let's assume you are a pro at any given thing. And now you would like to start your own business, or you already have a business and now you would like to build a new product that you want to sell or a new service that you want to sell to customers. Now the question is, what do you sell? Who do you sell to? So the first thing is, what product or service should you build? Then, who should you talk to in order to find out if they actually want that or not? Then, what questions should you ask those people? And then, who should you market to, as well as how should you market the product or sell the service? And in order to achieve that, I build a system where we're going to use this make automation as well as this make automation. And along the way, these automations will help us to take interviews. So this one specifically will help us to take interviews that I had. So the transcripts of those interviews, then it will put those transcripts into a structured format so that the data is in a database in the right format. And then I used the data from the database in order to find out the ideal customer and the product that I want to build. And the cool thing is the output will look like this. So here I have a detailed, well, I get it via email. I get a detailed analysis with the ideal customer avatar, the top 3 pain points, the top 3 desires or goals, as well as marketing messages that I can use in order to start selling the thing that I want to sell. So what I did is I conveyed a few interviews. In my case, it was just 6 interviews. Not enough in my opinion, but I wanted to push this video out because I still believe with those 6, I got quite some good results already. But the more interviews you do, the better the output will be. So now you might wonder, who should I even talk to and what should I ask those people? Well, that's the thing. The answer for that lies in asking ChatGPT or Claude. So I personally prefer Claude right now. It's drastically better because it pushes you back if you tell it bullshit. So here I have this question. So let's say I am whatever you are. So let's say I'm a marketing specialist with experience in AI automation. So let's say that would be what I'm good at. Now I can be a lot more in depth here. You can go into the specifics of what you have done in the past, what you're really good at, and so forth. And then you say, now I'd like to build a product. Who should I talk to in order to find out what product to build and what questions should I ask? You see, I even misspelled it here, so I said how. So whatever, I want to talk to specific people and I want to ask the right questions. So it says, as a marketing specialist with AI automation experience, here's a structured approach to discover product opportunities. So first of all, who I should talk to, so previous clients or employers, marketing professionals, small business owners, and it even says why I should talk to these people. And then I need to ask these key questions. So the problem discovery, what's the most time-consuming part of your marketing work? Which marketing tasks do you wish to you could automate? What's your biggest frustration with current marketing tools? And then it gives you questions for the current situation, as well as the value assessment, implementations, and well, some additional tips. So this is a great starting point. So what we can do now is we can take all of these questions and we can go to this beautiful tool that I'm using for that, and that is called Airtable. So I'm using Airtable here. If you don't use Airtable yet, I highly recommend it if you are using automations because it's a database on steroids. So it's basically like a Sheets tool like Google Sheets or Excel or whatever, but it has a bunch of other functionality as well, such as automations, interfaces, and forms that make your life a lot easier. So I have these 6 interviews. So how did I get them into my database? So I had 6 interviews, of which I then have these files, okay? So these are some transcripts that I either got from Otter or I got from Google Meet when I had an interview and I transcribed that with Google Meet. And I asked the questions, well, not these ones that we have here, but I asked ones that were specifically relevant for me. So I asked those ones here, as you can see here, AI consultant interview questions. So then out of these questions came this research information. So first of all, I have the info about the person. So this is the interview transcript. Then it says whether it's processed. And once it is processed, it creates these interview entries with the name and then with every single individual question here. So these are the individual questions. Under each column, I have one of those questions. So here, AI journey story, AI focus reason, and so forth. And I'm using a ChatGPT module here, this one here, so that it takes the interview, the transcript, and it puts it into the right format for me. All right. And then I have this beautiful format with all of these columns. And then I can take all of these columns and evaluate them. That's one thing. Or in the end, run it through this automation right here. And what that automation does is it takes all the responses that I got and evaluates all of these responses in order to then finally create this report, this output for me. So the crazy thing now is, based on just the interviews that I had with the questions that I asked, it created the 3 main pain points. So it said client acquisition challenges, including finding qualified leads or handling clients' expectations during onboarding and service delivery. Then time-consuming activities such as content creation, approvals, and managing complex AI flows for custom solutions. Scaling difficulties, including unclear service offerings, rapid technology evolution, and lack of trained personnel to manage the growth effectively. So with this information, I can now craft marketing messages. I can now say, are you facing challenges in client acquisition, including finding qualified leads or handling client expectations during onboarding and service delivery? Then download this PDF that I created for you, this cheat sheet, which will help you with these problems. And then you go through the marketing flow where people enter their email address and then they get this PDF and then you send them emails and sell them something, or you jump on calls with them, whatever the flow is after that. So this already helps you to understand what you should build. Okay, so you need to build something that fixes, solves any of those pain points, or maybe multiple of those pain points, and achieves those desired goals. So you can either go through pain with marketing, or you can go through desires and goals in marketing. Okay. And here you have some marketing messages. Some of them are a little more generic, but if you are a marketing pro, then you can make significantly better ones, or you can use that as a basis to prompt around with ChatGPT a little bit to get even better responses, or with Claude or whatever tool you want to use for Gen AI. Okay. So this was probably the longest intro that I ever made, but this was business information that you need to understand. It's really, really valuable and very important. Now, let's actually build the automations out. So let's focus on this automation right here that allows us to extract the transcript and create a database with all the fields that come after it. Okay, so the first thing that we'll need to do is to create a new scenario. So go to your scenarios, create a new scenario. And here we're going to start with a custom webhook, as I always like to do. And I'm going to create a new webhook. I'm going to call this one product research webhook. All right. Then I'm going to copy this address. All right. And now that we have this webhook, we need to connect this to our Airtable. Airtable is the database that we're going to use. So let me show you what I mean. It's this website here. You will need to register on airtable.com. You can find the link, an affiliate link, in the description below. I would really appreciate if you use that. And you will need to use the team tier minimum in order to use the automations that we are going to build. But I'm telling you, it's definitely worth it, because you don't want to waste thousands of dollars on something that you can prevent by just spending a little bit on these tools. So the next thing that we will need to do is, then you need to go over to this URL that I'm going to provide to you as well in the, underneath the video. And then you will find this page. So you will get here and you will only be able to copy this base if you are registered. Okay. So you need to be registered and logged into Airtable, and then you can click on copy base. So what this will do is it will allow you to copy the base to your workspace. And usually you only have one workspace if you just started out. So I'm going to use that. It's my first workspace by default. So whatever name you gave it or whatever name was given for it, just use the one that is the paid variant. If you have multiple workspaces, only one will be paid. The other ones will not be paid usually. So make sure to not create a new workspace, but use the one that is the paid variant. So then you add your base to that workspace. And once you've done that, you will see that you get this document here. So this entire database with 3 different tables: research, interviews, evaluations. And the data that I have here is going to be anonymized, so don't worry about that. The data that you're going to copy is not something you need to worry about using. And then I have these interviews here and evaluations. And then the cool thing is about copying this is that you don't need to build out all of the tables yourself, and neither the forms. So we have a few forms here. And the only thing that you will need to manually build is going to be the automations. So automations is something that is only available in the paid tier of Airtable. That's why I said you would need that. Because what we want to do is we want to, whenever there is a new form entry created, run an automation. Okay, so whenever we upload a transcript, what we want to do is we want to map that transcript to our interviews information. So here, all of these columns needs to be filled out. And these columns, by the way, they are whatever the questions came out of as a result of the prompt that we did earlier. So here, these are the questions that you should use as columns inside of your database. Now you could name it better. So you could say, give me proper database names for each of the questions. So that's what I did, right? And then I got the questions to be called AI journey history, for example, for this question here, AI journey story. How did you get started in AI and consulting services? That was my question. And out of this question, the table column was created called AI underscore journey underscore story. Okay. And now the same goes for all the other questions. So now let's build out the automations. And the automations that we're going to need is going to be this mapping automation in order to map the transcript out of what you talked to the person, to the interviewees. We want to map that to be stored in the database in the right columns. So in order to do that, we are going to say whenever a form is submitted, we want to run a script and update the record. So let's look at what this means. So we have this data here where whenever we upload something to this form here, so add new interview, whenever we upload something in here where we can enter the interview email address, the name, the company, the date, as well as the transcript. So this transcript is where we upload our transcript. And then once we added the transcript in there and we hit the submit button, that's when this automation should be triggered, this mapping automation. So the form will be submitted. Once the form is submitted, then we want to run a script. And this is the paid thing that why we need the paid variant of Airtable, because otherwise it doesn't allow you to run scripts. And the script, what it will do is, will actually allow me to pass on information, so pass data to my webhook. Now we're coming back to this part here. So this is where we have our webhook, and this webhook, it is really just this link. So if I copy this link and I run it once, so wait for new data. Let's say I go to a given website, right? And I enter this link or the browser and I enter this link and I just press enter, you will see it says accepted. So my automation ran and I got no information. So the webhook triggered this automation. So now I can do all of the other things. Now the interesting thing will be that here, what I want to do is I want to use the ChatGPT module. So I'm going to say OpenAI, and here I'm going to say create a completion. And the completion that I want to use, well, I want to use OpenAI. So you need to add a connection to your OpenAI, add your API key. So if you don't know how to do that, definitely check out my school AI automation masterclass. You will find it underneath. There's a link to my community. By the way, quick shout out to my community. So this is the school that I'm talking about, and there you get access to the AI automation masterclass where you learn everything that you need to know about Airtable and make.com to build all kinds of automations yourself, and obviously also understand what we're doing in this video, as well as you get access to all the templates and the tables and everything that you don't get in the videos. So I will share with you how to build one of the two automations, but the second one you will only get as part of my AI automation specialist community. Okay. So coming back here, so you need to set up a connection to OpenAI. And once you got that, there we will select the model. And well, you can save a little bit of money by using the mini version. So I'm going to use GPT-4 mini system. And the user will be, or the role will be user. And the content will be the content that I'm going to paste in here. Okay, so I have this long text here where I say, these are my different columns that I have in my table. So the column that we saw earlier was AI journey, AI focus reason, and so forth. And then I say, evaluate all of that and give it as an output to me. And here is my interview transcription. So we need to get this interview transcription from somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink this. And now I want to run this webhook so that I get this information. I want to get all the details about the entries of that form. So we looked at this form earlier. Where is it? It's this form here, where we entered an email address, a name, a company name, the date, and the transcript. And I need to get the information about the transcript. I need to have this. So in order to send it over, we need to go to the automations tab. We need to create a new automation. So here you click on create automation. You say add trigger. You then say when a form is submitted. Inside of the table, research and add new interview. So here, let's go over to this new automation that we're creating. We say research and then add new interview. Okay. So these are the tables that we're going to select here. And then we want to run advanced logic, which is this run a script. And here we will need to add the script. So where do we get the script from? Well, it's this script right here. So you can click on edit code and you will find that this is the code that we will need for it. So there we are. So this code here contains a URL. So this URL, by the way, I will share the code with you. You can just copy the code. You will also find it underneath the video. And this URL is what we actually need to get from this webhook. So we are copying this URL here. We're going over and we're putting it in here into this little field between this apostrophe and this other apostrophe. So the opening and closing apostrophe. And inside of this code, what we're saying is we're basically sending all the information over. So we're saying we create this variable, which is just an item that can contain values, which can contain information. And we're sending it over as this type JSON. So there's this type format called JSON, which allows us to send information or communicate with computers in a way that it's understandable for the computer or efficient for the computer, but also understandable for us humans. So what we're saying is, give me the interviewee email, the name, the date, the company name, and the interview transcription, and send all of that based on whatever we have entered. And all of these details come from this config. So in order for this to work, you will need to set up all of these config items here. So you will need to add an input variable, and the first input variable will be whatever name I have here. So interviewee email address. So I'm going to give it this particular name. And then the value I get from my, from Airtable. So you can select it here, interviewee email address. As this already exists, I cannot have this name twice. So I'm going to call it address 2, for example. And then you create this input. Then you can use it inside of your code. Okay, so you don't need to write the code. You can just copy the code as it is right here. And then you can do this process for every single one of those fields here. So interviewee date, the interview date, the company name, the interview transcription. So we're going to do the same again, add input variable. Now let's select this interviewee name, for example. I'm going to use that. I'm going to add a number here so it doesn't show me the error. And then I select the value where it says interviewee name. Okay, so in your case, you will need to call it interviewee name like so without the one. For me, it's just that this variable, this value already exists. Okay, I already have it here called interviewee name with this value that I get from my form. So what this just does is it just allows me to send all the information from my interviewee over via the webhook. So the webhook is sending all this information over. Okay. So once you've done that with all of those variables, you created all of those fields here, this input variable. Once you created all of them, then you can run a test. So you can go over here, say run once and wait for new data. then you go to your Airtable automation and you test this once. So run the test and you select one of the information, like any of the records that you already have inside of your table. So you see here in my research, I already have a few of those records. So this allows me to select one of them and then it will run this test once. Okay, so once the test ran, we will see that here. So you see, I get inside of make that my interviewee email address is John Doe. My interview name is John Doe. The interview date was on the 9th of December, then the company name, and then here the entire transcript. Okay, so this is the transcript of the entire conversation. So now I can use this to connect it to my OpenAI module. And in here, that's where I can just say what I want to have in here. So what I want is at the very end, I want to get the interview transcription. Okay, that's the only information that I'm going to use here. And I send it over to this OpenAI module. So then I will use something called a replace text parser. So there is this module called text parser. So you select this or you just enter text parser and there is this replace variant. And what I want to do is I want to just replace \n. So this will just replace a \n, which is a new line. So whenever you press enter in your keyboard, you create a new line, and this new line is getting rid of, because OpenAI creates a bunch of empty, new lines. We're just saying get rid of the new lines and replace them with nothing. So basically getting rid of them. And we say we want to do that globally and not case sensitive. And this will be a multi-line process. And the text that I want to pass is the message content. So here under choices, you will find message and content. That's the one that you select. So you click on this and it will filter or enter it like here or like this here. So then the next module is going to be another text parser. So the second parser should match patterns. And here comes a very advanced technique. So you don't need to understand it at this point. You can just use it as is. So I'm going to set this to multi-line, and the text is going to be the text that I get from this text parser. But the pattern is a very long one. So I'm just going to paste it in here. Again, if you want to get the templates, join my school, there you can download the templates. But basically what I'm saying is for every single column, so in my case, one of the columns inside of interviews is called AI journey. So what I want to do is I want to take the output from ChatGPT that it gave for AI journey story. I want to put that into this particular column, okay, for a new entry. That's what I want to do. So what I'm doing is I'm saying there is this thing called AI journey, and you get it through this little piece here. So it just says that the output, and we will see that in a bit, from ChatGPT will be AI journey, a story, and I want to use that in a separate output. Let me show you. So here, for example, right, this ChatGPT bundle, it gave me the result, AI journey story, like so, and the client, blah, 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 then AI focus reason, then blah, 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 then current AI services, blah, 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 and so forth. Okay, so it gave me all of these information, or of this information, and each time we have an empty space underneath here, so an empty line. So first with this text parser, we get rid of this empty line, and then with this text parser, that's where we are saying, hey, you know what? You have all of these beautifully designed items like AI journey story, like AI focus reason, and so forth. I would like it to be in the format so that I can give it as an output, because that's what the output is, where the Airtable here can now take every single one of them as individual input. And we're going to set that up so that it makes a little more sense. So let's set it up in our automation here. So I'm just saying, give me the AI journey story, then give me the AI services, then the client count, and so forth. And what I want to do with this now, so let me save that. What I want to do with this now is going to be to save that inside of my Airtable. So you will need to make sure that you set up a connection to Airtable in order to be able to use that. And here I'm going to say Airtable, create a record. And here I need to select the connection that I want to use. So you click on add, and then you say Airtable OAuth, and you give it a name, and then you click on save, and then a pop-up appears where you then need to log into your Airtable Then you need to select the base. So interviews mapped out, and you need to grant access. And then you can use that new connection. Okay. So I'm going to say cancel here. I'm going to use the connection that I already had. Then you need to select the base. So I'm going to say mapped out and then interviews. And here, that's where I can now pass in all the information. I put all of the information in here. So right now, I don't have any of the information except for, let me check. Do I have the interviewee name? I believe I do. Well, actually, I already get everything from the text parser, so it already understood. So I can get the interviewee name from the webhook. And that's why we needed to pass it in the webhook, because you might have wondered, hey, we didn't even need that interviewee name. Why did we pass it on via the webhook? Well, then we have the company name, we have the interview date, we have the email address. And there is one thing, it could go wrong, because it could be that the interviewee name and the company name, as well as the date and interview email address, are all not available. They're all not entered. So in order to not crash my automation, I can make them optional by saying if empty and then opening bracket, semicolon, and then closing bracket after this interviewee name. And I can now do the same thing here. So if empty, semicolon. So by doing this, I'm just saying, you know what? If the interview name doesn't exist, don't worry, I don't care. But if it exists, I'm going to enter it. So here, if empty, semicolon, closing bracket, and here as well, if empty, semicolon, and closing bracket. So now the rest we get from this text parser. So the journey story, the focus reason, the current AI services, the client count, the onboarding process, time-consuming tasks, automation needs, scaling challenges, common client requests, time-intensive tasks, client communication methods, current tools, and so forth. Okay. So yeah, basically clicking through all of them, scaling requirements here, desire support, community interest reasons. Yeah, you see quite a bit of information that I requested there, or that I tried to get out of the conversation. And the interesting thing is that some of the questions I never actually asked. So some of the questions, the only thing that I did is I just talked to the person, and based on the conversation, some of the things ChatGPT just understands. So I didn't specifically ask, for example, what kind of challenges do you have? But the person talked about their challenges. So ChatGPT understood, oh yeah, that's what their challenges are. So I'm going to put that into the challenges column here. So here we're saying no smart links, I believe. Yeah, and we can click on OK. And now we have built out our entire automation for a given transcript. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. So I'm going to run this once, wait for new data, and I'm going to go and use my form. So this script, we tested it, it worked. So we can say finish. Now we can go over to our forms, and we can say add new interview. Okay, so I'm going to click on done. This will send me to the interview itself. Here I can enter the interviewee email address. So john@doe.com, for example. Interviewer name, John Schmo. Company name, Schmo Industries. Interviewee date. Let's leave that out because I want to show you that the automation works even without any interviewee date. And here, that's where the transcript goes. So what I can do is I can just take any of the transcripts, open that, copy that, and paste it in here. And you see it was transcribed by Otter, so I can get rid of that. And then I can submit that. So this will start this automation. And then this automation will be triggered, and we will see that all of the info, also with John Schmo and so forth, have gone through. We have all of these details. And now we can go over to our interview automation. We can see here that the details for John Schmo have been created and entered all in here. And now the thing is, you see there was no interview date and it still worked and our automation didn't crash. Okay, so that is how to map out your details. Now you could obviously do one last thing, and that's in the automation where you also update a record where you say, okay, you know what, once all of this automation is done, or once this script ran, I want to update the record where I say inside of the research table, I say the field is processed. So that would be in here. This process checkbox is triggered once the automation is done. Okay, once it did it for John Schmo, okay, or John Doe Schmo. All right, so now with that, you know how to create an automation that takes a large transcript and then puts it into the right columns. And now just this automation is left to do, and that is the transcript evaluator. So what it does is it basically puts everything together and evaluates it and then sends out the email. Okay, so this is the email that we want to get as a result with all the very relevant information that will help us build our service, our product, our marketing, and so forth. So in order to achieve that, we need another webhook. So this will be triggered once this automation is run. So the evaluation automation, which is based on the form. So this form right here, evaluate my interviews, where I just enter an email address and it triggers the automation, where it then sends me the summary with the relevant details to my email. So what this automation, by the way, looks like, or the script looks like, so we can check that out. So here we are sending a lot less information. It works very similarly to what we've seen before. We have this webhook, which is this particular webhook here. So this URL, we are using it in this automation where we are passing it down here. And then we have this payload where we get additional information such as the record ID and the user email. So not much more than that. The rest is pretty much the same. So then we can go, and once we get a new form entry, this automation will be triggered. So we are searching through all the interviews that we have in our database. So all of those interviews here with all the columns that we mapped before with our other automation. And then we aggregate all of those. So we put this text aggregator together. So what that does is it puts all of these information all into one text document, one file, or one output, so to speak. And this output we can then use in this ChatGPT connection or this ChatGPT completion, where we're just saying, you know what, I have interview data, use that data, and then give me information such as the ideal customer avatar with the professional role, the industry, company size, daily responsibilities, and so forth, the top 3 pain points, the top 3 desired goals, marketing messages, and so forth. And I tell it to give me that as an HTML output, but omit the HTML dash and this dash in the output, because that's what ChatGPT loves to do. And that output then is used in my email where I have this bit of, HTML code, so to speak, and it says, hey, your evaluation is ready. It's sent to the user email, whatever we got from the webhook. And then we say your evaluation is ready as the subject, and the result we enter for, as you can see here. So then this result comes, by the way, from this OpenAI module. And then finally, we take this evaluation and we store it inside of Airtable as well. So whatever ChatGPT gave us, we are storing it inside of our evaluations table. You see here the content of the choices. So the output is I can show you how to find it. It's under the ChatGPT choices, message, content. You can also use the result. Either way should give you the same thing, but you can try and see if there are any differences. But with that, we have our automation ready. And this automation, what it creates are these evaluations. So these are the emails that we get based on the interviews that we created. So you see, I have run this multiple times and used it, tested it multiple times, but usually you would just get one evaluation, and that evaluation would pretty much be it. And it's very, very valuable because that will then help you to understand what the product is and services that you should build. Well, we already talked about that. We already asked people, and then we will know better who to market to. So maybe there was a subcategory of people within the people that we had an interview with, and then we already know, or also know, how to market and sell our product and service based on the outputs that we got. So based on the main pain points and the desires, and now we can base our entire marketing message based on this email. And doing all of this manually takes weeks, right? And not doing it is taking even longer, because then you're building things that nobody wants and you're wasting a lot of money and a lot of time. So with that, I would say, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the like button. It really helps me out, and also subscribe and leave a note or a comment if you have any questions or like recommendations or tips. And then if you haven't done so already, I would highly recommend joining my AI automation specialists community. So this community is rather new. We're not big yet, but this will change very soon because I'm constantly putting out new content. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So if you want to build out this automation for your business, then just send me a message on LinkedIn, connect with me there. I wish you a lot of success. Don't fail building things that nobody wants. Do the research, call a few people, talk to the right audience, and then become successful. I wish you all the best on your journey. I wish you a lot of success and see you in the next video.